This is a story of hundreds of millions of dollars, crazy guerrilla SEO experiments with tangible results. SEO experiments to hundreds of thousands of people with tangible results. Learnings about how the internet works. And finally, a vengeance against Google that spans a decade. That's what this story is about. Hundreds of millions of dollars, crazy SEO experiments with real results and real lessons to hundreds of thousands of people, and vengeance against Google that took a decade to manifest. I tried to tell this story yesterday on my daily TikTok, daily Instagram reel, as I make a video every day, at least one video every day. And I tried to tell this story, and I think I could have done a way better job. And so when I woke up this morning, I said, I gotta give this story another shot, because this story really is good. I didn't expect it to be as good when I was making the script for yesterday's video. And after I made the video, I'm just like, wow, that story truly is crazy, and I gotta try telling it again. And so this is my attempt to tell it again, because it is, I think, a great story. So we start with our main character. Our main character is this guy, Rand Fishkin. Rand Fishkin at the time, it's 10 years ago, we're at May 1st, 2014. Rand Fishkin, he is a leader in the SEO community. He is the founder of Moz, which is a very popular piece of software. Here's Rand's background. Let me share Rand's background. So this is what Rand says himself about his own background. This is from his blog. I'm not going to say what article this is from just yet, but this is what Rand says about himself. He says, I started doing SEO for small businesses in the Seattle area in 2001 and co-founded the SEO consultancy that would become Moz, originally called SEO Moz in 2003. For the next 15 years, I worked in the search marketing industry and was often recognized as an influential leader in that field. He wrote a lot of pieces for big publications like the Wall Street Journal, Inc., Forbes, and hundreds more have written about him and quoted him on the world of SEO and Google search. He had a very popular weekly series called Whiteboard Friday. I personally watched Whiteboard Friday every week. It was amazing. I am inspired by the content marketing that Moz and Rand Fishkin did. And so Moz grew to 35,000 plus paying customers of its SEO software, of which I am one of them and was one of them. Revenues of $50 million a year plus, and a team of 200 before being sold to a private equity buyer in 2021, sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. And then Rand left. In 2018, he started his next company, SparkToro, and in 2023, a video game studio called Snack Bar Studios. He holds several patents around the design of a web scale link index, and he's the creator of numerous link index metrics, including domain authority, which I talk about all the time. The show domain authority is a 0 to 100 score that measures the authority and how able a website is to rank on Google search. It's a 0 out of 100 score. SparkToro has a domain authority of 61 out of 100. And the more links, authoritative backlinks you get to a website, the higher this domain authority goes. And Rand Fishkin holds the patent around that. And so that's Rand. And in 2014, he does all these SEO experiments, but in 2014, he was doing these SEO experiments around click data. And when he was doing these experiments, little did he realize Rand was a lover of Google. He loved Google, and he still likes how Google works. But he liked all of Google back then. And little did he realize that 10 years later, in May of 2024, Rand would be releasing the biggest Google leak in Google's history, the biggest leak, and Rand would be very partially responsible for this leak. I think if it wasn't for Rand, there's a good chance that not a lot of people would know about this leak right now. And 10 years before he was doing click experiments, he had his company Moz. He was making all this money. He was a leader. He was speaking at conferences. He had a growing team, and he was running experiments on what happens when lots of people click on results on Google all at once. So now we're at May 1st, 2014, and Rand has 264,000 followers on Twitter, and he tweets out, "Care to help with a Google theory/test? Could you search IMEC Lab in Google and click the link from my blog? I have a hunch." So he tweets that out. He wants everyone to search IMEC Lab on Google and click the link from his blog, because he thinks that if this happens, his ranking will increase. He's currently ranked at number 7, and you know what? He's right. Based on his Google Analytics data, he estimates that he gets 175 to 250 people to respond to his call to action and click. So you can take the average, 228 clicks, and all it takes is 3 hours for his website to go from number 7 on Google to number 1. It takes 3 hours with just these 228 clicks in 3 hours to go from number 7 to number 1 on Google. And he was right. His theory was right. And then only a few months later, he tries it again. He wants to see if he can recreate it. He's inspired. This is from this amazing article called SEO Experiments. It's SEOsherpa.com/SEO-experiments. Really good article. I'm going to be sharing a lot more from this article on the podcast in the future. But if you want to check it out, it's 21. The article is titled 21 SEO Experiments That Will Change the Way You Think About SEO Forever. It was updated April 2nd, 2024, but it was originally written, I believe, in 2016. And I read this when it was originally published in 2016 because I've been doing SEO for a long time. And I remember when it was published, and I just sat there in my living room in 2016. I had this great apartment in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And I remember I just sat there. I was still learning about SEO at the time, and I just sat there entranced reading this article and all these experiments. And I'm like, wow, this is the way that Google works and nobody knows. And there's all these experiments put together. It's a really fantastic article if you like data, if you like SEO experiments, if you like digital marketing. I think it's a fantastic article. And so Rand wants to see if he can recreate this click test. So this article says, inspired by a bottle of Sullivan's Cove whiskey during a break in a World Cup match, Rand Fishkin sent out another tweet. The World Cup is going on. Rand is getting drunk, and he's like, I'm going to try this again. So he tweets to his audience of hundreds of thousands, and he says, what should you do during that lull in the World Cup match? Help me run a test. It only takes less than 30 minutes. Go to this Google form. And then if you click on the Google form, it's only a few questions. It says you can be logged in or logged out for this test. Please search for the buzzy pain distraction and record the ranking position you observe for the blog from sciencebasedmedicine.org. Ignore the image/news/other vertical blocks, then click the result. And then you write, before you click, what is the result for science-based medicine? Basically, he's just getting everyone to click on sciencebasedmedicine.org for the keyword, for the search, the buzzy pain distraction. And this is the result. It took 3 hours, just like the last test, and around 375 clicks total. Science-based medicine moved to position number 1. Eureka. He's recreated this test now. He knows how Google works, and he knows that click data is one of the most important things. And Rand, over the course of years, runs many tests like this, and he shares them. He shares them publicly on Twitter, on the Moz blog, which was a fantastic blog back in the day, on his Whiteboard Friday. He shares them. He has these great tests that he shares. And here's what Google has to say about his tests. Now, this is a quote in 2019. So it sounds like, wow, this guy is pioneering. He's getting all this great data on click-centric user signals and user behavior and how it influences Google search and SEO. There's lots of tests like this, and this is just one quote of many from a Google representative about these tests and about Moz. Now, this comes from Search Engine Roundtable. I'm just going to read the first 2 paragraphs of this. In a Reddit AMA with Gary Ilyas, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name properly. And so Gary this is Gary's position. He says on Reddit, I am Gary, Google's chief of sunshine and happiness and trends analyst AMA. He says, at the time, I've been with Google for over 8 years, always working on web search. I worked on most parts of search, Googlebot, Caffeine, as well as ranking and serving systems that don't have weird public names. Nowadays, I'm focusing more on Google Images and video. I don't know anything about AdWords or Gmail or Google+, but I know a lot about SEO. He says, don't ask me about stuff that is not web search. And he calls himself Google's chief of sunshine and happiness and trends analyst. Isn't that a nice name? So he's probably going to say nice stuff. Well, this is what he has to say about Rand Fishkin and his SEO tests around click-centric user data. So this is back to this article. The article, if you want to see it, it's called Google, CTR, Dwell Time, and Other UX Signals Are Made Up Myths. This is from Search Engine Roundtable. In that Reddit AMA with Gary said outright and clear that the theories around Google using user experience and behavioral signals such as click-through rate and dwell time are generally made up crap. He added, search is much more simple than people think. He also took a jab at Moz's founder, Rand Fishkin, who has often produced studies claiming Google uses these types of metrics for ranking. Gary wrote, dwell time, click-through rate, whatever Fishkin's new theory is, those are generally made up crap. Now, how would you feel if you're Rand Fishkin? Sure, he at the time, he has lots of money. I think he had exited Moz by this time. This was 2019. Yeah, he left in 2018, and this was 2019 when Gary said this. But still, he's had plenty of money for a long time. He gets his validation in other ways. And here he is, this company that he spent the last decades working with, Google. And they're saying publicly that his theories are made up crap. Now, this is what Rand Fishkin says in his article when he releases the Google leak. So Rand writes in this article that multiple times the Google reps said what he was experiencing and so many other SEOs were experiencing and asking about just were not true, flat out lies. And then he writes that sharing it further would be tedious and could be perceived as personal grievances given Google's historic attacks on his work. So he feels bad. I think it's clear. He is not happy. I'm sure that was one of many statements in 2019, one of many statements that Rand has had to experience about how his theories are made up crap and his tests are made up crap. I think his tests are very interesting. If you want to read them again, lots of great tests, 21 SEO experiments that will change the way you think about SEO forever. That's from SEOsherpa.com. Okay, so we have these click tests, May 1st, 2014. That was 10 years ago. To the month, 10 years later, on May 27th, 2024, Rand shares his article. An anonymous source shared thousands of Google Search API documents with me. Everyone in SEO should see them. And if you don't know, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes where I say how this happened, the short story is this anonymous source, he revealed himself. His name is Irfan Azimi. He's an SEO consultant. These leaked Google Docs have been floating around on GitHub for 2 years, and they only came into light now. He was tipped off, and he said, do I keep this quiet or do I share it? And he, like Rand, had experienced many things with Google. He asked the Google reps, is this true? I'm seeing this. There's no other explanation. And the Google reps would say, no, it's not true. And so he would take what Google would say at face value, go back to his clients, and wouldn't really know what to tell them because there was no explanation for the things that he was seeing other than the simple explanations like click-through rate matters. For example, that's just one of many. But Google said they couldn't measure all of these things. And then he sees this document, and this document shows that they have these 14,000 ranking factors, and some of them measure directly the things that he was told that they could not measure. And he's like, I got to share this. Who am I going to share this with? Well, Rand Fishkin is this leader. He's this leader in SEO. And so he reaches out. Rand even says, prior to the email and call, I had neither met nor heard of Irfan. But he reaches out. Rand is intrigued. They talk. Rand wants to see if these Google documents are real. So he goes out to all these ex-Googlers that he knows. They confirm these are probably real. And then he writes this long article and he puts it out. And this is Rand's vengeance. I'm just going to reread the introduction to this article. It's a great introduction. This is his vengeance after so many years. So keep in mind, actually, before I read this, at first, Google wasn't making any comment on these leaked documents, and they started to go more and more viral. And finally, they admitted to The Verge, yes, these are real. This was just a couple of days ago that Google said to The Verge, yes, these leaked Google Search API documents are real. And so, okay, that is Rand's vengeance. The biggest leak in Google's history. And this is what Rand had to say about it when he leaked it. I'm going to read this and then this podcast and this story, this 10-year story is going to end. So Rand says, on Sunday, May 5th, I received an email from a person claiming to have access to a massive leak of API documentation from inside Google's search division. The email further claimed that these leaked documents were confirmed as authentic by ex-Google employees and that those ex-employees and others had shared additional private information about Google search operations. As I read this, think about Rand and his history doing SEO, saying that his studies are made up crap. So Rand continues and he writes, many of their claims directly contradict public statements made by Googlers over the years, in particular the company's repeated denial that click-centric user signals are employed, denial that subdomains are considered separately in rankings, denials of a sandbox for newer websites, denials that a domain's age is collected or considered, and more. Naturally, I was skeptical. The claims made by this source, who asked to remain anonymous, that was at the time, now he came out as public, seemed extraordinary claims, like, in their early years, Google's search team recognized a need for full click data, every URL visited by a browser, for a large percent of web users to improve their search engine's results quality. And in fact, this data served, they needed click data, they wanted click data so much that it served as the key motivation for creating Chrome. That's how important click data was to Google. And now back 5 years before this to Gary's statement, and he said, user experience and behavioral signals such as click-through rate and dwell time are generally made up crap. Dwell time, CTR, whatever Fishkin's new theory is, those are generally made up crap. Rand continues to write in his article, Google utilizes cookie history, logged in Chrome data, and pattern detection as effective means for fighting manual and automated click spam. He lists out all these other things, but I want to end with this one thing, which takes us back to his experiments 10 years prior. So he writes, they have this other thing called NavBoost. NavBoost uses the number of searches for a given keyword to identify trending search demand and the number of clicks on a search result. And then he says, I even ran several experiments on this from 2013 to 2015. And these clicks, again, are so important that they were the key motivation, as Rand writes, for the creation of the Chrome browser. And that is Rand's story. That is Rand's story. His vengeance that spans a decade, these SEO experiments. Rand's done so many more. And the story of the biggest Google leak of all time. This is episode 332 of The Edward Show. This is my daily growth hacking, growth marketing, and digital marketing podcast. That is my best attempt to tell this story. I could have done it so much better on yesterday's TikTok, on yesterday's Instagram Reel. And so this is my second shot. I think this one is much better. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please share it. Share it with a friend. Share it with your mom. Share it with a colleague. Share it with somebody if you like it. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I do this thing every day. This is daily. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.